Hey guys, welcome on into Drinks with Binks. I'm Julie Stewart-Binks, and we are about the midway point of the NFL season so far. There's been plenty of storylines to whet your palate. We're sort of somewhere in the middle of the college football season. I'm not really sure because so many different conferences have been all over the place, but nonetheless, that has also been very interesting to watch, and we're very thankful that we can watch sports right now because it has been just a very up and down year, to say the least. But to talk about this and a whole lot more, I'm very excited to welcome in my next guest, an 8-year NFL vet. He played with the Raiders, the Bills, the Jags. He's now a media savant with ESPN covering college football, NFL. He's on the radio. He also has his own podcast, Total Coverage, with Kirk Morrison on SiriusXM. I'd like to welcome in Kirk Morrison. So great to have you here today. We know you're so busy, so thank you for taking the time.
No, thank you for having me, Julie. Look, if there's anybody in the business who I would love to sit down and have drinks with, it'll be JSB. So if I understand if some soccer, some hockey may come into this, look, I'm all for it, man. I told you I'm ready. I'm prepared. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, because the college football and NFL stuff I talked about, we are not discussing here today. We are going to discuss the Champions League instead. No, but actually, like, funny enough, Kirk, like I know you could handle that because we have worked radio before where it is kind of like whatever topic is of the day, you have to kind of have an opinion on it, right? Because you've been you're doing some radio too still, so you've probably learned a lot more than just the gridiron.
Yeah, I just love sports in general, right? Whether it's baseball, obviously we talk to football, but basketball as well. Think about it. The Masters is going on right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's Masters week in golf. So I'm excited about that. Like, yeah, I know it just doesn't feel right? We're talking about the Masters in November, but I'm excited about that. I want to see who wins. Tiger getting back on the course. And then, obviously the Tampa Bay Lightning. I still want to get your opinion on what happened with the Tampa Bay Lightning and how they were. Come on, Julie. Like, seriously, I'm pulling for Canada to get a title at least one more time.
There's all Canadian players on the team. That's all I'll have to say. Okay. But look at you talking hockey here on the show today. Okay. Well, before we get into all that and more, what are we drinking and what are we toasting to today?
Oh, what are we drinking? So I got the limes already in it, but I am a vodka on the rocks. Preferably, I'm a Tito's guy. So Tito's vodkas, 3 lime juice squished right into it, 3 little limes in there. And that's my go-to drink. You know why? Because you add ice. But then for me, it's one of those drinks where you could just sip it slow. Okay, and then all of a sudden, the great thing about this, though, it sort of turns into like it turns into like water basically at the end. So you really don't know like your limit. You can keep going, and then until you get up, you're like, whoa, I maybe had too much.
You can't see anymore. You're blind drunk after a couple of these. All right, well, we will cheers with this is very LA, by the way, because there's like 0.0 calories in this. Yeah, as well.
That and that too. There you go. See, you
yes. Okay, so yes, a wonderful drink and. And what's good going on in Kirk Morrison's world? What are we toasting to? We did that wrong, but yeah.
You know what? I think we're just toasting to health, right? Great health. We're living in a pandemic still, right? We heard about the pandemic, back in March, and we're still almost like in the same position, right? It's crazy to think that we hope that things would have gotten better. And full disclosure, I know I had COVID, survived COVID.
Oh, you did? Wow.
Yeah. And so
what was that like?
It was different because, I think it's a fear that a lot of people have. Like because I know I've had friends who tested positive. My brother had tested positive as well months prior to me having COVID. And so I was going through it with him. And like the initial reaction is, like, oh my God, like you think like you're thinking the worst. And he was, he did have symptoms. He wasn't the asymptomatic type. So he had symptoms, and I know it was difficult for him, but he pulled through. And so it was like when I got it, I was like, same thing. And it's like, it's hard, Julie, honestly, because here you want to educate people and tell people, hey, I have COVID-19, but yet so many people don't understand it. Some are still like, oh, stay away from me, get away from me. And so I didn't really want the sympathy. I didn't want people calling like, oh my God, are you okay? And like, it was one of those situations that it happened. I am lucky enough to be asymptomatic, and I went through it, survived it, and been back, full speed ever since. So it's that's what I'm cheering to great health.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people around the country we're still fighting this COVID-19, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down, Julie.
No, it definitely isn't slowing down, and I appreciate you giving us, the insight into that, because as you mentioned, you kind of don't really, as you said, you don't want people to know in a way, like you do want to know because of like contact tracing, but like they do, you find they kind of look at you differently.
Yeah, and the contact tracing for me was a little bit different because I wasn't around a lot of people, right? I've already kept my my circle really, really small, and just I've been working from home pretty much this entire time with doing radio and television. Everything has been on, Zooms and Microsoft Teams. I mean, I know literally any option to do a recording live, I've done it all in the last 6-7 months. So I know them all.
Yeah, you do.
It's funny though. I literally never used a lot of them before, but now like I know them all. So I was already working from home. So for me, that really didn't change. But I think, one of the things that I couldn't do is, which I love to, is going to the grocery store, going to, different places. Like I try to get my steps in at Costco, just little things like that. Like I couldn't do anymore. And
right.
That's what for me was hard to deal with. But, went through the proper protocols, did everything, and got my negative test back after, going through quarantine and things like that. So, I'm back 100%. And now just, giving a lot of, positivity to people who are going through it.
Well, that's great. And I'm very interested to hear about Kirk Morrison's post NFL career, getting steps in at Costco regimen, because that is quite an interesting way to stay healthy. But that, obviously all things considered, I want to get into this. We only have a little bit of time right now, but you mentioned working from home during the Pac-12, which started up last weekend, and UCLA, Colorado. Initial thoughts on, a conference coming back that had to just like wait and watch all these other conferences start.
Yeah, literally the Pac-12 was the last conference of the 10 conferences, right? People will always talk about the Power Five, but even the Group of Five, they all started before the Pac-12. And finally they joined the party. They had one of the first things ever for them was Pac-12 before brunch, right? We're so used to Pac-12 after dark, the late games on the West Coast, and people on the East Coast staying up late. I lived on the East Coast for a time, or the Eastern time zone, so I know about those late 10:30 Eastern kicks. And, that was always been the Pac-12. But for them to do the Pac-12 before brunch, a noon Eastern kick, 9 a.m. local time, that was pretty fun. I thought it was pretty cool. USC taking on Arizona State. The only thing was they announced the president that day in terms of who won the electoral vote. And so it kind of took away a ton of the ratings that I think the Pac-12 was hoping for. So it's been a rough going for the Pac-12.
It's tough to go up against that one that day. That was real tough ratings.
And then they also had 2 other games that were canceled. So they had 6 games scheduled for the first week of Pac-12 play. 2 games got canceled due to COVID, Washington and Cal, and then Utah, Arizona. So only 4 games they had to play. Luckily, my game that I worked last week was not canceled between UCLA and Colorado, even though they did have a positive test. Now, it wasn't considered, a person was asymptomatic, and I'm not sure he was on the travel roster, but there was a lot for me. I was like, wow, well, is this going to be another cancellation? Because I've had cancellations for COVID this year. Julie, I've had a cancellation or a postponement because of Hurricane Delta earlier in the year. So 2020.
Wow.
And I want to give you a quote. This is a quote literally I got from Chip Kelly, right, head coach at UCLA last week. He said, "We live day to day, right? But in a COVID pandemic world, we literally live hour to hour, minute to minute." And I was like, yeah, coach, that is a metaphor for life. That is a quote for life. And that's the way I've been treating things. Sort of like the Pac-12. It's, we can go day to day, but we almost have to be hour to hour with how we may have to change and adjust things.
Yes, certainly. And as you mentioned, with potential positive tests or negative tests, you never know if a game's going to get canceled, postponed, whatnot. We do want to talk a whole lot more about Pac-12, NFL, and beyond, but we got to take our first time out on the program. We are drinking some Tito's with Kirk Morrison.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere.
This is Gilbert Arenas, a.k.a. Agent Zero, a.k.a. the Hibachi. Catch me on Drink with Binks.
Hey guys, welcome back to Drinks with Binks. I'm JSB, and we have former NFL player turned media savant Kirk Morrison here with us. And you've been broadcasting the Pac-12, which just came back last weekend, and you're doing it from home. What is something that the viewer couldn't possibly understand about what it's like to broadcast a game from your house?
Wow. Oh, man. I don't think they will understand. Like, first of all, I think the prep that goes into it, that's something I don't know if people understand. Like, you do all the prep and you get ready to call a game, but calling it from home, Julie, is it's different for sure. But I think what I miss the most about calling games on the road is that fan reaction. Like, it is so much, and I've seen it just all through sports, whether we've seen the NBA bubble, we watched a little bit with, Major League Baseball, Julie, but I'm going to be honest, like having fans in the stands, having fans roar, like the great moments for me, like I've covered the last 6 Super Bowls, and just the emotions of the fans and how loud they are, and the big plays, the bad plays, like you can feel it, right? In my broadcast, usually I have that same emotion. You know what's a big play or what's a bad play. And it's kind of hard to get that feeling because you're not there. So a lot of it is just going off of feel, acting as if I'm in the stadium, but I'm really basically sitting at my home in some shorts and a suit coat and a shirt and tie. So that's probably the cool thing, is that I don't have to get all dressed up. Yeah, it's party at the bottom, business up top, So that's been one of the things that's been cool about it. But I think it's sort of what the wave of the future. Obviously, I think with the way that the pandemic has been happening, a lot of sports are going on, but yet there's been limited fan capacity, but there's also limited, people who are able to be at the game and work at the game. Right. So last week they didn't have Ralphie. Okay. So Ralphie is she is the Buffalo for the University of Colorado that runs out on the field before every single game. And she wasn't allowed to do that because of COVID protocols and non-football people being allowed inside the stadium. So even football traditions are being hit by COVID.
Yeah, even buffaloes. Like, that's not fair for those buffaloes. But I understand, because you're just bringing more people in. And especially in those certain states and circumstances, a bit more different protocols. Speaking of fans not being at games, we saw the Lakers win the NBA this year. No fans, but what a time to be in LA. I think when I was there with you and we did LA radio, it was like, wow, LeBron's injured again. They're not going to make the playoffs, doom and gloom, all this kind of stuff. They win. What part of you believes that they can repeat now when the season begins again in December?
Because they got the 2 of the best players in the NBA. That's easy, right? Or the best player. LeBron James, regardless, is still the best player in the NBA. He's carried 3 different franchises to NBA titles. And when I say carried, yes, he carried 3 different teams. I mean, the Lakers hadn't been to the playoffs in almost a decade, and yet LeBron comes in after an injured season that we were a part of, we were broadcasting out of, and change it all the way around. Now, Anthony Davis had something to do with it, but the Lakers are primed to really just put pieces around. I mean, they've already got the main piece, right? They've got the quarterback, in my NFL terms. They've got the quarterback. Now it's what you put around the quarterback. And we've seen LeBron just really put together a bunch of cast-off misfits in LA and got them all on the same. Think about it. J.R. Smith and Deion Waiters got a ring this year, right?
Yeah, I know.
Dwight Howard was like out of the league, and he gets him back in. It's those kind of things. Like Jared Dudley has been a guy who's kind of bounced around, but he's found a way to be on the roster. And, it's crazy to think just how good those 2 guys are, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And regardless, I think me and you could actually be on the team and they will still find a way to win.
Well, the way you just, characterize a whole bunch of nobodies that can't play, we'll definitely be there. Sign me up first and Brian can get me a ring.
No, we got game. No, we good, Julie. We got game. We got game.
We got game. All right. But okay, yay or nay, you think they can do it again?
Yeah, they can do it. No, they got the two.
Your
best
voice
guys
went up. That means that you're not so sure. But it will be very interesting to see. Don't worry.
Well,
I'm not going to put you in a hard spot.
Full disclosure, I'm born and raised in Oakland, California. I've been a lifelong Golden State Warrior fan. So there will be some competition this year as my Warriors will get back to having Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins. We've got the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. Yeah. So I'm just trying to let you know that can they do it? Yes. Am I hoping they do it? No. I want to see my Warriors right back because –
all right.
Yes, I had a championship stolen by the team from the 6. So yes.
Yeah, and they stole it in every right. It was sitting right there, and they were like, okay, no one else wants this right now. We'll just take this.
Damn,
we got a whole lot more to come with Kirk Morrison here on Drinks and Things, guys. Don't go anywhere. We're sipping on some Tito's.
What's good, everybody? This is Jerome Baker, Miami Dolphins linebacker. I spent my bye week with Drink with Binks. It was water, but you never know. You never know what was in it, but let's just say it was water.
Hey guys, welcome back to Drinks with Binks. I'm JSB. We've got Kirk Morrison here, and we've been talking a little NBA, but we're talking a little NFL now. And you covered the Rams. They got whooped by Tua in his first game for the Dolphins. And I know that you've been talking about him and his, really great start to his NFL career. You've seen a lot of quarterbacks come and go. Maybe what's something unique about what you've seen from him early that gives you the idea that he is going to be could be a Hall of Famer type of quarterback?
I think one of the big things about Tua Tagovailoa is his poise, right? He's been poised. He's been in big games. Like you think about what he did his freshman year, and when he came in for Jalen Hurts, and what happened? He goes out and at halftime comes in the game and basically brings Alabama back, right? It's unbelievable what he was able to do to help his team win. And then you just watched him throughout the rest of his college career, and you just kind of knew, right? You just said, like, this dude is different. This dude is special. So I think playing in those big moments, he gets to the NFL, and what happens? The game is not too big for him. I think if he was fully healthy, Julie, I'm talking about from week 1, he would have been the starter. But he was coming off the hip injury at Alabama, and everybody kind of pressed the pause button. But, Miami never did. And so as much as I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was my former quarterback when I was in Buffalo, I really believe that it was Tua time in Miami because he's the guy for the future. And I said, you know what, let's just go with the young guy. And look, he's produced 2 wins already so far for the Miami Dolphins. Is he a Hall of Famer? We will see, but the talent is there. And I think he just has the demeanor, right? He has this calmness about him. He's got this swagger about him too, that this isn't too big. And I think he's not too big on himself. He's not one of those guys that, hey, look at me. He's always going to deflect and put it on his teammates and say, hey, it's about what we did as a team, not what I did. And I think that's the kind of attitude you want from your franchise quarterback.
Yeah, he seems just like a really great person when you kind of see him in the post-game press conferences and you saw him on the field after the game that he was supposed to play. But you mentioned Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Bills, baby. Bills are crushing, just 7-2 right now, just destroyed Seattle. You were there. There is still this mentality maybe from Bills fans, and you can speak to this as a former Bills player of not getting ahead of yourself. The whole Sean McDermott stay humble and hungry.
Right.
Do you how excited are you for this city? And then also how timid are you to get excited?
Well, I think I'm excited for him because I know what this means for the city of Buffalo. Like having lived there and been around it, like it was some of the worst days that I've ever been a part of when you lost a game in Buffalo on a Sunday and you drove to work on a Monday, right? It was just, the streets were a little dirtier, right? Because I'm just being honest. It's like the streets are a little dirty because people are just like in such a gloom, right? Because they really love their Buffalo Bills football. But I tell you, the days that you win, especially if you beat like a New England, I mean, everybody's up in the morning. I mean, the garbage man is tossing garbage into the truck, with one hand. You got the street cleaners cleaning up. You got people high-fiving. You can go eat at any restaurant. Like, oh, you play for the Bills? Get over here. I got you a drink. I got you some chicken wings. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I'm being real. I think that, for them, they've passed a lot of tests so far. Okay, Jill, I mean, they lost 2 games. Buffalo did. They lost 2 games to the 2 teams that were in the AFC Championship, right? And the one team that actually won the Super Bowl in Kansas City. So you lose to Kansas City, Tennessee, like, they're not a bad team. They're great. So I don't know why people fell off the wagon so quick. They're 7-2, and I'm looking at them now as, I'll tell you, when I lived in Buffalo, it was about one thing. No one cared about the record, right? Everyone just said, how do you do against New England? And look, I know Tom Brady's not there, but they still beat New England with Cam Newton there. It's still the Patriots, regardless. The team name didn't change because Tom Brady left, but they beat New England. And I know that was huge for the city. And I'm pulling for the Buffalo Bills. I think Sean McDermott has got this thing going in the right direction. They've got an outstanding quarterback in Josh Allen. They finally got the big play threat at receiver in Stephon Diggs. And so I think this is the year that they can break the Patriots, 11 consecutive season streak of winning the AFC East. So I'm pulling for the Buffalo Bills.
It's a very good feel-good story. And as you mentioned, that is exactly what Buffalo is. As someone who's been there a lot, I grew up in Toronto. It's sort of like our pseudo team in a way, but it definitely is big. It means so much for the city.
It's a
you got to take a quick time out, Kirk.
Yes.
But we will be back with more Kirk Morrison. And we love the city of Buffalo here on Dreams with Things. Hey guys, we've had an awesome time drinking and binking here with Kirk Morrison. So many more questions I'd like to ask you, especially about your tackling memories. But we'll get to that next time. Where can we find you next? What games do you have on the horizon?
On the horizon, and like I said, hopefully, while we're taping this, that my game stays packed, which is this week, University of California at Berkeley taking on Arizona State. Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. That'll be on ESPN2. You can hear me there. And then Sunday, my NFL duties go right into the great broadcast, the Rams taking on the Seattle Seahawks. I'm on the Rams Game Day radio network. So you'll hear me on the pregame, the halftime, the postgame coverage as the Rams look to start their second half of their season as they got their final 8 games. You can also find me, the Total Coverage Podcast is on SiriusXM On Demand, SiriusXM app, or wherever you find your podcast, Apple, whatever. Go to the Total Coverage Podcast by Kirk Morrison. You can hear me there as well. And throughout the SiriusXM family of radio shows, I'm a constant host throughout. So that's where you'll find me in the next coming weeks, but also find me on at Kirk Morrison on Instagram, at Kirk Morrison on Twitter. So honestly, that's where I find my schedule at a lot of times, because literally I feel like I'm so damn busy. I got to go to my own Instagram and social media to figure out what I got going on week to week.
Yeah, you're like, wow, I'm on that game. Didn't remember that. Also, maybe leave some jobs for someone else there, Kirk. You're literally doing everything in the industry, but for good reason. You're a great analyst, great personality. Thank you so much for doing this here today. Awesome time just drinking and binking with Kirk, drinking some Tito's. And you guys know where you can find us: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Fubo Sports, as well as you can listen to the show in podcast format on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your pods. And we will see you guys next time. Bottoms up, bitches.